present their portfolios and their work they've done here in our program and all. It's Julio and Anderson who just did the show for you. So I'll let them take it on as far as doing the presentation.
All right. Hello, everyone. I realized I didn't introduce myself when I was doing the tour. But yes, as Professor Pereda said, my name is Julio. I'm trying to find my presentation. Yeah, so my name is Julio. I'm originally a mechanical engineer. I graduated from San Jose State University 2020, the semester the pandemic started. And I wasn't really enjoying mechanical engineering as much towards the end of my undergrad, and thankfully I found out about industrial design and the Georgia Tech program. And I attended some info sessions and eventually like the open house, which kind of convinced me to pursue the master's program here at Georgia Tech. And so far, for me, it's been like the best school experience so far. And I'm just gonna quickly go over some of the projects that I've done so far. So I went into the 3-year program, starting with certificate year. And yeah, so I'll give like a really quick overview of what I'm going to cover. Basically the certificate year, projects from year 1, and then just to show you some of like the fun that we have here in the program as a community instead of friends. I feel like it's important to show that side of it as well. So yeah, Professor Purdy showed this earlier in a different format, but like these are some of the projects that I'm going to be covering today. So from the certificate year, from my grad studio A, brand and visual design, rapid design visualization, grad studio B, 3D design methods, integrated product design, like just building up those core skills that fall semester, and then starting to apply them a bit more in the year 1 program. So starting with the certificate year, one of the first projects that we had to do was to design a cardboard chair for a teammate, fully out of cardboard. We weren't able to use more than I think 4 or 5 sheets of 4 foot by 4 foot corrugated cardboard, and we couldn't use any fasteners, any kind of glue, anything like that. It just had to be the cardboard itself to be able to create the overall structure and actually support our partner. And you had to take into consideration like your partner's different features, like consider all the ergonomics and also like their personal needs and aesthetics that they wanted. So specifically for my partner, she wanted a chair that would have some sort of storage for her. So I created this little trunk, if you will, in the back to be able to store her stuff while she's away from her desk. And yeah, that was like a really hands-on project that lasted around 5 weeks, but we were all cutting cardboard for like 2 or 3 weeks straight. And then another project that was one of my favorite projects in terms of the first semester was a branding project for our brand and visual design class. And it was a semester-long project in which we either had to redesign an existing brand and shift the overall like brand language and all those elements, or we could create our own brand. And I had always wanted to create my own coffee shop brand. So that's kind of what I decided to do for this class. And we designed pretty much everything that you see on the screen, all those assets, and how we communicated our brand. That was all done in the class throughout the semester. And this is one of my favorite projects to date. Another project that we did, this was actually in Professor Purdy's 3D modeling class, and it was also a semester-long project in which we had to design a phone stand, or he called it phone cradle. And for me personally, I wanted to design something that could hold not only my iPhone but my Apple Watch. Oh, I was trying to remember there was something else, but yeah, something that could hold both my iPhone and Apple Watch in this really fun spherical kind of form. And then the Apple Watch holder could actually rotate to put the watch at different angles. And not only did we learned about rendering or modeling and then rendering in Keyshot that semester, but we also had a 3D print and like fabricate it. I don't have a photo of it in this presentation, but like that was all fully functional as well, which is really fun. A lot of us hadn't really 3D printed before, had limited 3D printing experience. So that was an interesting challenge there. Another really fun project for Professor Purdy was to take scan data. So for a hand, like they scanned it and then turned it into a 3D model. And we had to design a piece of art around that scan data of the hand. So I was inspired by this old vintage ring that I saw with like a mini LED display that kind of displayed the time. And I thought it would be pretty interesting. It's kind of hard to see from this angle, but like what if that it could be like a extension of the iPhone or the Apple Watch where you could pay with your pinky, you can check the time with your pinky. So it was a pretty fun project. And like when the display is off, like it just looks like a regular ring with like a black onyx stone on it. And it was like a really quick 1 week project, but it was actually one of my favorite projects. In terms of the integrated product design class that Professor Purdy talked about, this was one of the most involved projects, I would say, in terms of certificate year, because we were learning a lot. Well, some of us had experience with different electronic components, but some of our classmates didn't. And like the nice thing about this class is that if you didn't really have any experience, they kind of taught you from the ground up, so you learned a lot of different skills as well. So what my team and I wanted to do was to create like this intelligent like robot waiter that would be at the center of the table, and he would actually project the menu onto the table to let customers visualize exactly what they were ordering. And during the time that we were designing this, it was kind of towards the end of COVID, and a lot of restaurants were really short-staffed. So we figured that if the restaurants were able to implement these little robots onto in their establishment, it would help out with like those short staffing issues. And like one of the things that the professor wanted for the class was to design like this product with a lot of personality in it. So we drew inspiration from WALL-E, the movie WALL-E. I don't know if you have all watched it, but a lot of the characters in that movie were really expressive just with their eyes. So Foodiebot would, like, if he got bored, he would kind of like just look around, or he would get happy when someone ordered. And it was like, how do you communicate with a robot just through like their, I guess, eye expressions, which was really interesting. And this was kind of the process. We started with some ideation, did a looks like model, actually kind of set up all the electronic side of it and the software, and then we had our final prototype, and everything was actually working right before our Launchpad event, so the end of the year showcase. And people had a lot of fun interacting with him, and we printed mini versions and keychains that we handed out. So yeah, that was a really interesting project, but definitely very intense. And then another project from certificate year, which actually earned some recognition, or we got honorable mention, but it was this project where we wanted to create a set of modular units that you can utilize, that college students or anyone really could utilize in their smaller apartments, and kind of repurpose them with all these different accessories. So everything that you see here, we designed. So the idea was that like these different accessories like hooks, power strips, or the magazine holder, or like the cushions would attach magnetically to the sides, and you can build a really fun customizable unit that you can utilize in a lot of different ways depending on how you arranged it. So for example, you could create a desk, you can use it for your closet area to store some of your items, or even for a coffee table, the entrance of your apartment, for your shoes. And like the fun thing was that you can essentially keep extending them and create a unique layout just for you. And we wanted to take advantage of both like the awkward corners that like a lot of the time aren't really utilized with our like we call it like a quarter piece, because a lot of the times that space is just empty. And this is just more of how it works, like the exploded view with the end caps, the magnets, like the different panels, and pretty much everything that you see here was designed by us. And we wanted to add another touch point to this project, which was like an app in which you can actually like visualize the QB units in augmented reality. So you can kind of project them onto your apartment space and then arrange different configurations and to see exactly like what would fit best with your layouts. So yeah, augmented reality, exploring layouts, exploring different kind of systems from the community. And yeah, it kind of earned us some, like, an honorable mention in the European Product Award competition. I'll kind of skip through this one really quickly just for the sake of time, but this was another project for the James Dyson Award competition, and we essentially we identified that the aging population had a really severe malnutrition. Like, a lot of the elderly are really malnourished, and we wanted to create a system that allowed them to track their food, not only them but also their loved ones. So if they weren't eating the proper amount of food, which was tracked through the scale and like the companion interface over here, then it would kind of alert their loved ones that they were either doing really well and they didn't really have to worry, or that their different nutritional levels were down throughout the week. And this was actually a team project with Anderson, who will present a little bit later. But yeah, we identified a problem, kind of presented some of our research, and proposed our solution. We designed like the smart tray, which would like weigh their food and then allow it to track with the central hub. And for those that already had a tablet, they can just utilize our app as well. So I'll just go through this very quickly. And now it's moving on to year one of the program. So, like, how do we apply all of the skills that we learned in the certificate year? And specifically for this class, for service design, which Professor Purdy mentioned that it's starting to become really important here in the US. It's already a lot more developed in Europe, but in the US, it's starting to pick up pace, and a lot of companies are finding the value of service design and service designers. So this was a sponsored project for the class, in which the prompt was to like, how could we expand the access to the world of art and culture in terms of the museums utilizing Matterport, which is like a digital twin, a company that creates virtual tours for apartments. So if you ever visit an apartment and you see their virtual tour, a lot of times it's going to be Matterport who created that. So they just scan the room and then they turn it into like a virtual version that you can explore. So they wanted to see how we could utilize their technology to kind of help museums expand the access through virtual tours and things like that. But our professor wanted to consider more touch points than just like the digital. So we essentially designed a service that would allow a visitor to kind of the entire journey of a visitor, from like the beginning when they're planning their visit to a museum to the very end when like they're home and they're able to actually see like what they interacted with in a museum. So like in the planning ahead, they would see, we kind of set it up as like, imagine if you're walking through New York City and you approach a museum through our service. With the app, you would be able to have like your museum passes, get your museum passport stamped. And for those who didn't want to use their phone while visiting the museum, they can have a phone-free experience with what we call the M+ tag, which would allow them to interact with the exhibits and also favorite them to their account. And through the app, they would be able to interact with the exhibits through augmented reality. So if they spotted like this we called it an M+ tag. Like they would know that there's more information to be seen through the app. And like if they pointed their phone at that exhibit, more information would kind of be projected in the augmented reality. And then based on like the artifacts that they interacted with throughout the museum visit, they would be able to get a personalized recap at the end of their visit, see how much time they spent on each floor, get kind of statistics about like the type of visitor that they are, the pieces that they like, some pieces that made them think. And then we started to think about how we can expand the experience like with virtual tours and add on to the existing state that they're in right now. So yeah, this was a really fun project, and this is the class that kind of led me to identify what I want to do in terms of design. So ideally, I want to become a service designer and maybe one day teach service design. But yeah, it's already going kind of late, so this is another project for Grad Studio 1. another project shifting the visual design language of walkie-talkies. And then for our health and wellness studio, one of the groups was like a high fashion user group, and we utilized 3D modeling software to create like these parametrically designed glasses that for me, I wanted to be able to change the frames without having to, you would snap on a different lens that would give you all these different looks, just with like a single base wireframe. And yeah, before I hand it off to Anderson, just some of the fun that we have throughout the semester. Like this was all with our chairs, and then visiting a zoo, having like a Friendsgiving, Secret Santa, hiking, birthday celebrations, other Friendsgiving. So we all I found some of my best friends here through this program, and I'm really thankful so far for like everything that I've learned. And yeah, I always go long, so sorry, but now it's Anderson's turn.